Police warn protesters against laying siege to government buildings. Police beef up defenses at the CE's office. And no classes for schools tomorrow in Wan Chai, Central and Western districts.
Good evening. The police have warned protesters if they escalate things tonight, they will take resolute action to stop it. Meanwhile, those close to the government and Beijing are asking demonstrators to be realistic, saying there is no chance Leung Chun-ying would step down. The police was stern in its response to the Federation of Students' threat to take over government buildings if the chief executive doesn't step down by midnight.
We stress that police will not tolerate any illegal surrounding of government buildings. Police urge the protester to remain calm and restrained. Do not block and charge any government buildings. Police will take resolute and firm actions to restore public order.
Hui stopped short of clarifying what action the police would take, only saying officers will assess the situation and take necessary steps. This as the police stationed around the government headquarters was seen receiving deliveries of tear gas and other materials early this evening, believed to be used for crowd control. Meanwhile, Legislative Council President Zhang Yuxing admitted today that he's met with Democratic Party founder Martin Lee and Nix Media chairman Jimmy Lai to discuss ways out of the stalemate. Unfortunately, he said there's been no conclusion yet. But Zhang, who is a founder of the city's biggest pro-establishment political party, said if the protesters insist on the chief executive's resignation as a pretext for dialogue, there will be no dialogue.
I think anyone who has a fair understanding of the principles, the concerns of the central government cannot believe that the central government will allow, at this juncture, any uncertainty caused by a change of the chief executive. No, I don't believe that's a remote possibility at all.
His view was echoed by Executive Councillor and lawmaker Regina Ip, who also used to be Secretary for Security.
I don't think he will be allowed to resign because if a chief is unseated this way, Hong Kong will become government by mass mobilization. Who's next? You know, it's this option is simply not viable. You know, no government would agree to that. You know.
Alan Zeman, one of IP's New People's Party advisors, urged the chief executive to make an effort in creating the right atmosphere for dialogue. He said the key is to listen.
That's one of the most important things, that people in the past have developed a mistrust of government, and that's why you have so many people on the street. And so it's important that we start, and it has to be top down, from CY down to the normal people.
Liz Yoon is standing by at Admiralty to tell us the latest situation there. Liz, what's it like out there right now?
Yeah, hi Chris. I'm standing right outside of the Chief Executive Office on Tim Wai Avenue, and the crowd swelled as more protesters came to show their support, and I see people geared up wearing eye and face masks. Well, actually, conflicts between protesters broke out in the early morning when someone tried to remove metal barricades on Tim Wai Avenue. And the Occupy Central organizer Benny Tai actually said different groups should come together to carry out discussions to resolve conflicts. And police got into a standoff with the protesters here on Tim Wai Avenue right outside of the Chief Executive Office later in the day. At around 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. this morning, there were tense moments at a protest site in Admiralty. Some men wearing the Occupy Central Marshal uniform tried to remove the metal barricades on Tim Wai Avenue, saying they were doing it to enable the delivery of supplies. Around 100 protesters stopped them as they feared that the police might take advantage of such a passageway. The two sides then engaged in an hour-long argument. Some of the demonstrators later asked for a dialogue with Occupy Central organizer Benny Tai. They want the Occupy movement to consult them before making any move at the protest sites. Tai agreed there is room for improvement in communication between the Occupy movement and protesters on the streets. Tai denied his group is now the chief organizer of the protests. He said the Federation of Students and his group have resources and are ready to help solve any conflict.
We may be responsible for overseeing the whole picture and then provide the whole picture information to each of the situations for citizens involved and try to come up with a solution, a consensus through deliberation. I think that is the way we are trying to resolve the issues now in the area.
Tai added that he would discuss with other groups what the marshals should wear so that people can easily recognize them. Some protesters have been gathering in front of the chief executive's office on Tim Hwa Avenue since the early hours today. At around 4:30 p.m., the police and protesters got into a standoff when protesters tried to stop several police cars from moving into the chief executive's office compound. Instead, officers got off the cars outside the compound, carrying boxes labeled batons, corrosive and inflammable into the CE's office. Protesters chanted slogans to express their anger. Earlier on, the Federation of Students warned of stepping up their actions if Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying does not resign by midnight tonight. Some university students support the idea of occupying key government offices.
Actually, I support the Federation, and I think there must be some change for right now because I think the situation has been stuck.
She added that the student group does not intend to occupy hospitals or fire stations which provide emergency services. Liz Yun, TVB News. Standing here, I can hear chantings from the crowd from time to time. And compared to a couple of hours ago, the number of police officers has gone up. That's all from me for now. Back to you in the studio.
Liz Yun, where it's quiet now for the time being in Admiralty. The government says all schools in the Wan Chai and Central and Western districts will remain suspended tomorrow. Meanwhile, many students and teachers continue to take part in a class boycott as an extension of the protest movement. But as Ronnie Samtani reports, a group of scholars has been keeping students engaged with a mobile democracy classroom.
Demonstrators gathered under the bridge on Tim May Avenue this afternoon to listen to a lecture on civic education.
I think many people is just getting lost because they're asking for something not really important. Like sea island, they want him to resign, and then but it is not the real issue we are asking for. We are asking for the real universal suffrage.
We are not having a party here. We are fighting for something very serious. I think it's important to know what the people are thinking and to group our ideas and maybe exchange and think of a better way to say how should we go further.
The lectures are open to everyone, including the hearing impaired. Chinese University of Hong Kong professor Roger Cheng has been participating in the mobile lectures over the past 2 weeks.
We think that we could serve students by entering the field where they go to provide some civic lectures. For scholars, our task is simple. We just educate those citizens now and in future. That's our clear and sole purpose. So we are not advocating anything. We are just doing our job beyond our campus.
Cheng explained that the lectures aim to provide knowledge that cannot be received in a regular classroom.
Schooling is for better further education. Better further education is for a better job and a better income, better social status. And this is very individualistic, undemocratic, not civic attitudes. I feel that there are sudden bursts of needs of a sudden awakening that they know too little. Then their awareness of ignorance become the thirst for the hunger for this kind of knowledge.
The mobile lectures have been running all week in the occupied zones at Causeway Bay, Admiralty, Central, and Mong Kok. Organizers hope the discussions would remind people why they are out there protesting. Ronnie Samtani, TVB News.
Police officers had to step in when anti-Occupy Central groups clashed today with an Occupy Central supporter in Sham Shui Po. This as more organizations spoke out against the movement and expressed support for the police. Stephanie Choi reports.
Scuffles broke out between members of an anti-Occupy Central League and a man who supports the movement. At one point, he fell down. Police officers later intervened. The League, formed by anti-Occupy Central groups, was handing out blue ribbons and collecting signatures at its Sham Shui Po street booth. It condemned the Professional Teachers Union for calling on teachers and students to join the class boycott. It also urged police officers to enforce the law in a strict manner in dealing with demonstrators. In Tsim Sha Tsui, other groups that opposed the Occupy protests also kicked off their Blue Ribbon campaign to show their support for the police handling of the street protesters last Sunday. Letitia Lee of the Hong Kong Parents Association described the demonstrations as a kind of violence in the sense that they have damaging effects on the society. She said occupying districts, blocking roads and throwing street parties isn't the way to go. Voice of Loving Hong Kong convener Patrick Koh said he too suffered the effects of tear smoke as he was in the area at that time. He stressed that it was harmless and that nobody died from it. The Hong Kong Customs and Excise Staff General Association said in a statement that nobody should override the law and disrupt social order by blocking roads. It expressed anger at such behavior and added that members of the police force deserve respect for executing their duties lawfully. In response to recent plans to occupy Yuen Long Town Centre, the rural body Hung Yi Kuk said it will mobilize its members to prevent such occupation from happening. The Kuk also expressed support for the government's actions towards what it called disruptive and illegal activities. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
State media on the mainland has made it clear that Beijing is firmly behind embattled Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying while condemning the Occupy movement. On Chinese Central Television, the main broadcast reported the central government's support for Leung and his administration. And the Communist Party's mouthpiece warned of chaos caused by the Hong Kong protest movement. The People's Daily said in a commentary today that the central government fully trusts Leung Chun-ying and is very satisfied with his work. It added that it firmly supports the Hong Kong police to handle illegal activities in accordance with the law.
Still ahead tonight in the broadcast, Foreign Minister Wang Yi says Hong Kong street protests an issue for China only. U.S. Secret Service head resigns following White House security lapses. And a 6-acre portrait in Washington, D.C.
Gandhi said that whatever you do in life will be insignificant.
Love is difficult, both in families.
Why do you think Dad doesn't want to, listen to me?
You have a daughter who sincerely believes that you don't like her.
And in relationships.
Do you even realize what you've done?
I didn't mean to hurt you.
That's exactly what you meant to do.
Friday, Orange to Watch Company presents Remember Me on Pearl's Friday Attractions.
喂，
阿仔啊，我頭好痛啊，仲鼻塞添啊！
你等等下，喂，老婆，
喉嚨好痛啊，仲周身骨痛啊！我發燒啊，你摸下我頭幾興？我沾到鼻水啊！我咳死
幸福為你行多步，特強幸福傷風咳素，12大傷風感冒同咳症狀，一次過 KO。幸福為你行多步。
And now the moment we've been waiting for.
It's part 2 of the Top Model finale.
Here we go, guys.
Now it's just time to be me and to be beautiful.
I have to win this competition. Going